All right, let's talk about the USC Trojans a little bit. Look, obviously a top 10 program coming off a victory, a big Pac-12 victory over Colorado. I feel like right now USC, despite some very obvious defensive struggles, aren't getting the respect they deserve. But the reality is they have been the most dominant team in college football. And there's one key fact to highlight that. We've got a tweet from Arrogant Nation, which is a USC Trojans football Twitter account. For those of you who aren't familiar, good follow for you USC Trojan fans out there. But Miles, if you want to throw up the tweet, here's, I think, the important fact to understand with the USC Trojans. Right now, there is one team in major college football that has not trailed in the 2023 season, and that is USC. And I think that's an important thing to understand because there's a lot of people very critical of USC. A lot of people aren't viewing them as a serious national title contender. I think that's false. We know about the defensive issues, but the reality is this, to this point, has been the most dominant team in college football. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But before I hand it over to you, USC fans obviously got another Pac-12 game coming up against the Arizona Wildcats. They've been a little frisky. They paid some teams pretty tough. But give us your prediction, USC versus Arizona, in the comment section below. Give us the final score, what you think that game will turn out to be. All right, Miles, what do you think? What do you think of the Trojans right now? Are they getting disrespected by a lot of people in the media with, where they're ranked, how people think they're going to actually end up this year?
Yeah, they keep sliding in the rankings for no apparent reason, which I don't understand why. Because, like you said, they've been dominant. What is the one thing we talk about? What do top tier programs have to do, Nick? They got to beat the bad teams. They've played some bad teams so far, and they've beat the heck out of them. You go up against a Colorado team who, once again, been very frisky, played a lot of close games versus a lot of teams. You know what? You put 48 points up on them. They do try to make a little bit of a comeback, but you beat them, you get the game done. And here's the point of the tweet. They haven't trailed them at all. They're always in the lead. They're ahead of every single team all the time. They keep the tempo of the game to their tempo. They put their foot on the gas and tell everyone else, hey, you got to come catch us. And that is very hard to do in a Lincoln Riley-led offense with Caleb Williams as your quarterback, with a lot of new playmakers on this team. Marshawn Lloyd, heck of a running back. Taj Washington has been a great receiver for them so far. So I think this is disrespect just because they haven't done anything to show that they don't deserve the highest level of respect. I think this is an easy top 5, top 3 team in all of college football right now, Nick. They're about to get into the tough stretch of their schedule here, but I think they're going to show. I don't think a team like Notre Dame has the firepower. They have the defense to play a lot of teams close, but I don't think they have the firepower to keep up with a team like Southern Cal. I don't know if Utah has the firepower to keep up with a team like Southern Cal. I think their biggest test will be against Oregon, a team that can probably match them a little bit. But this is a Southern Cal team that looks really, really good, when you say, Nick.
I don't understand where people get obsessed over the fact that they aren't winning every game 60-20. Look, this is big boy college football. They're playing conference games. In the case of the Colorado game, they're playing a road conference games against a Colorado team that obviously isn't as deep as USC, but they got elite NFL talent at the quarterback position. Shedeur Sanders is likely going to be a first-round pick before it's all said and done. So I don't understand why people are really hating on USC when the reality is, if you look at the other top 10 programs, they have their struggles too. Georgia was down double digits and needed to pull out a fourth quarter victory against a terrible Auburn team. But Georgia says, well, that's a road conference game. So is USC over Colorado. Michigan hasn't played anybody. They've been great, but they haven't played anybody yet of any sort of significance. How about the Texas Longhorns? They were in a dogfight against Kansas at home, against Kansas, right? I know Kansas is a feel-good story, but they're not really that great. And Kansas didn't have their starting quarterback. They were tied, Texas was, with the Wyoming Cowboys, the great football powerhouse of the Wyoming Cowboys, 10-10 late in the second half of that one before Texas pulled it out. But a lot of people look at Texas as a top flight contender. Florida State was outplayed by an unranked Clemson, yet managed to escape there, and they went toe-to-toe with a really bad Boston College team. But again, Florida State, they're considered above USC. How about Oregon Ducks, right? Obviously, they have the big statement victory against Colorado, but they were really bad. They went down to the wire against a really, really not good Texas Tech football team. People aren't giving any crap for Oregon for that. So I don't really understand what's going on here from USC's perspective. And look, I get it, right? Anytime you give up 40 points, the voters may not like that. But when you've got the best player in college football, and Caleb Williams is that, bar none. He is the best player in football. No one's even remotely close. When you have probably the best offensive mind in college football, if he's not the best, he's top 2 or top 3. Just those two things alone is worth being a top 5 football team, and they haven't trailed. And here's one point I want to really focus on here. When I played college football, and it's important to understand, and anyone who's played college football can understand this at any level. When if you're winning by 10, if you're winning by 20, if you're winning by 30, 40, 50, it literally is the same vibe, the same energy. Players playing the game, there is no difference. So when you look and say, oh, Colorado came back and made it a game, in terms of how USC feels about their performance, certainly offensively, defensively is another story. It's not anything they're really thinking about. It's not anything they're really harping on or focusing on, because when you're just trying to win the game at that moment, at that Saturday, it doesn't really matter if you're winning by 40 or by 14 or by 7. That's an important thing to understand. This margin of victory stuff here that everyone seems to focus on, that's for the talking heads. That's for us talking on YouTube right now. In terms of the players and long-term success, it doesn't really matter at all. That's why you see a lot of teams kind of play a lot of close games, and then they end up going a deep run. You look at TCU last year was a great example of that. Every game they played was really close. They made it to the college football national title game. USC are blowing people out. Obviously, Colorado came back and made it a game, but the reality is they've clearly been better than every team they've played, including conference games and out of conference games too as well. The fact that they're number 9, I think, is just an absolute travesty. I think they're going to blow out a lot of teams the rest of the schedule. I think that late season Oregon matchup will be very interesting, but I think the level of disrespect we're seeing from the Trojans right now, or aimed at right at the Trojans right now, I think is ridiculous. This is a top 5, top 4 team in the country, and they should reflect that in the rankings.